So that wasn't like a shock when I got to Thailand. I was like, yeah, back again with the language barriers, not being able to get my thoughts across, but it's okay.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Corner, the last episode of season number 1. And joining me today is a good friend, Michelle. We met during study abroad in Paris, and since then she's gone on to teach in Thailand, teaching English to, I think, high school students. So I'm super happy to have her on the show today to talk to us about her experience teaching abroad.
Thank you for having me. So I'm, as you said, Michelle. And we met during our study abroad period here in Paris. And as you said, I'm back here doing my master's program. I'm very excited to be into this new field. But I decided to go to Thailand basically in the year between like when I graduated for my bachelor's degree and for my master's degree. And it was kind of that period of like, I knew I wanted to do a master's degree, but I didn't want to do it right away. A friend of mine, her sister had done it. She went to Thailand and taught. So we had that experience, and my friend was like, I'm thinking of doing it myself. And I was like, why not? I wanted to do something that was completely like travel and different from what I had done before I like settled down into a master's program. So that's kind of why I decided to go and teach in Thailand.
What was your biggest struggle? What was the hardest thing that you had to do? Maybe it was mentally or with the language, and how'd you overcome it?
I always feel like when you go somewhere new, you have that kind of sense of like you're trying to adjust and you're always kind of feeling a little dumb or a little like, you don't know what's happening. You don't know what you're doing half the time. But I've gotten, I think, a little used to that feeling thanks to Paris. So that wasn't like a shock when I got to Thailand. I was like, yeah, back again with the language barriers, not being able to get my thoughts across, but it's okay. Yeah. You manage. And I think that's one of the difficulties in a sense. Sometimes I lived in a small town called Phetchabun. It's a really small town. So there's not a lot of people that speak English, and those that do, it's very broken English. So that's where I felt the most like culture shock, I guess that you could say, because just getting anywhere, we didn't have motorbikes, and getting a taxi, I would call one, but they didn't speak English, so I couldn't tell them where I was or where to take me. So at the beginning, that was a struggle, definitely. And it did feel like a little bit of like, oh my God, I feel a little bit stuck because I don't know how to even get around. So that was a little bit of like a hurdle we had to like get through. But then eventually you start meeting people and making connections. I got the number of a guy that spoke English, his taxi, and I would just message him. So you start meeting people and making those connections, and you figure it out. You find ways to like connect with people. Like you realize like signaling works a lot.
Like school was a good connection, your exchange program or your expat program were good connections. Did you make any other connections doing like recreational activities, any hobbies?
Yeah, I think it helps to go to the same places often, because then the people at the restaurants that were near us, they recognize us. One, it was a small town, so anywhere we went, it was pretty obvious who we were. Mm-hmm. But if you start going to the same places, you start making connections with them. And even though a lot of times we didn't really understand each other, they kind of knew now what we liked. So we didn't have to say much for like to get our stuff. And it was just nice to know them. And then joining any type of community thing that you can find, for example, a gym, like we did Muay Thai, my friend and I did Muay Thai, and that was kind of like where we got the biggest connection, because our trainer became like a friend of ours. He like took us to his family restaurant, and like he took us to see the mountains. So if you can join something like that, I think are like the key to like being like successful in a different country, because that's where you start actually making connections.
Nice. I remember you were telling me about some of your Muay Thai experiences, and that sport's pretty that's tough. I'm sure it's a good workout too. How did your experience affect your view of the world, or you personally? Did you notice anything different? Did you change as a person, or was it like, okay, I did it, on to the next thing?
I think it changes you a lot. I mean, personally, I felt like, one, it's a lot of growth, because you get thrown into situations where it's like you've never been in before, that you have to figure things out in a different way, and you learn from the people that are there. Like I felt like, comparing it to my experience with like Paris, I felt like when we arrived, it was like go, 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 and we were always doing things, and the speed of Paris is fast. Whereas like Thailand was the opposite. It was like, relax. When I had issues with like just problems that I needed to solve with like my students, or like creating a test or something, and I would talk to my co-teachers, they'd be like, it's okay, like take it easy, like relax. And at first it's a little like, you have to get used to it, because my mind is like, but I need this.
Yeah.
That urgency, but at the same time, it's like it teaches you to kind of relax and be like, yeah, it's okay, like it doesn't matter that much. So,
what tips would you give someone who's interested in teaching abroad? Doesn't have to be Thailand. This could be in like Africa, Asia, Europe, just in general. If you can give one solid piece of advice.
I think something that a lot of people like want to do when they want to teach abroad is that it's because they want to go live abroad or travel, and that's great, and take advantage of all of that. But bear in mind that you're going there to teach, to work. I don't know, I noticed it in Thailand where you'd see a few people that were like, I'm here about the traveling, and then teaching is like the thing that they have to do to be able to do that. But it's like you're going there to work, and like these students are depending on you. So you might not be perfect, but your whole point is that you're trying your best to, in a sense, serve your students. So just bear that in mind when you're going to teach abroad, is that you're going to teach, you're not just going to travel.
It's not a party trip.
Yeah. Like you're not going there to change the system either. You're going there to, learn from even your students. So be as open-minded as possible, and just remember to adapt to every situation, and that to not stress about teaching like I was stressed about teaching. At the end of the day, like if you're connecting with your students to a certain extent, like you're doing a good job.
That's awesome. If you're connecting, you're doing a good job. Yeah, no, that's so true. We're not here to reinvent the wheel, but we're just here to do our jobs, make a difference, and not sweat the small stuff. Cool. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for hopping on this Zoom call, hopping on the podcast. You and your friend who also taught abroad have your own like social media page, somewhat. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? Do you want to share it with the world?
Sure. So my other friend that we went to Thailand together, we started a YouTube channel, which we started in quarantine, and we actually have a lot of videos about teaching in Thailand specifically, and teaching abroad. So if you want to know more specifics about that, there's a lot of kind of detailed information, especially if you go through our program or what our program is about, costs and everything, and more tips, even clothing tips, and that kind of thing. So you can definitely check that out. And now she's in Thailand, actually. She's teaching there still, in a different place. So she'll be posting more stuff about that, and I'll be posting about Paris. So if you're interested in that, go check it out.
Definitely go check out their channel, their YouTube channel and Instagram page. But Michelle, it's been a pleasure having you and seeing you again. And that wraps up season 1 of the Creative Corner. Comment down below what kind of creative stuff you want to see in season 2. I'm really open to ideas, and I want to know what y'all are into. So that wraps up this episode. I will see you all in season 2.